Hey everyone, this week in Exodus we come to the Ten Commandments, which I'm not even going to bother reading because I think we're all pretty familiar with them. Instead, I want to think about how, as Christians, we kind of have a weird relationship with the Old Testament law, not just Ten Commandments, but all of the laws we find here. Because on one hand, you have what I would say is a misinterpretation that the law is nailed to the cross and is totally irrelevant to us. And then on the other hand, you'll see some of those same Christians argue for why we need the Ten Commandments to be posted in public places. Whatever we say about the law, good or bad, I think it is important to remember that, at least as far as Exodus presents it, it comes from God. So we at least want to take it seriously and be careful if we're calling it garbage or something. You know, it's good to have a positive view of what the law is and what it can do. All right, we know that we need boundaries. From driving down the road, I'm thankful for the lines because they keep other cars from driving into me. And same with kids, right? They grow and mature better if they do have structure, right? If they have no limits or no rules, kids actually do pretty poorly. And here we see for Israel it was important because for generations, they've been in slavery. They don't even know how to be human in some sense. And so this is God giving them a way to be human and live in a way that provides flourishing for them as a people. So law is in some ways necessary, and yet at the same time, we can see that law also has its limits. For one thing, it can't address every situation. Right? The Bible couldn't be long enough to address everything we come across, and even the laws that do touch on things we experience, well, there's always going to be unique situations and exceptions and things. So it always has to be interpreted, and so we're going to disagree about those sort of things. At least the legalism, where being a good person, being a good Christian just means following all the rules. And that tends to make people who are not very gracious and kind or compassionate. Either we're strict on following the rules, or we start looking for loopholes so that we can not follow them but pretend like we still are. So this is not the way that we expect it to be, that we should believe it should be as Christians. Jesus talks about this, Paul talks about this. The place where Paul, I think, sums it up best is in Romans 13, where he says, the one who loves has fulfilled the law. The commandments, you shall not commit adultery or murder or steal or covet, or any other commandment are summed up in this word, love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no wrong to a neighbor, therefore love is the fulfilling of the law. Right? We believe that's where it all comes down to. It's about love. And even these laws here in Exodus, that's at least was their intent. And so I think we need to see the irony of Christians looking for a new law, thinking that that's what Jesus or Paul gave to us. It's not. The whole point of Christ coming and dying and being raised again is to show that it's not about the rules. Christianity is not a rules-based religion. It's about following the way of love that we see modeled in Christ. And so knowing what to do or what not to do has a place, but it's not all about that. One way to think of it is if you planted a new tree, right, you've got to put stakes around it and things to support it. Otherwise, the first big wind is going to knock it over. But as that tree matures, those things that were necessary for its growth are actually going to hold back growth. And so that's where it is for us as Christians. We need some guidelines to know how to love, but eventually no rules can express all of that. And so we have to be guided by the Spirit. And so today, figure out where you're at in that process of growth. If being a good person is only about following the rules, then that's a pretty immature faith. And we're called to something more. We're called to follow the way of Christ and figure out what that looks like here and now.